vanished in command. The 2010 mystery of Private First Class Ethan Ward, Fort Benning, USA. The night was still. The barracks at Fort Benning appeared ordinary, quiet, and routine. But somewhere in those shadows, Private First Class Ethan Ward vanished. Not AWOL. Not missing under suspicious circumstances. Vanished. Whispers of a secret operation, a low-frequency hum, and unexplained disappearances across multiple bases hint at a world hidden from public eyes. What really happened to him? Who was behind it? And most chilling of all, is he still alive? Tonight, we journey through the secrets of Fort Benning, examine classified leaks, whistleblower revelations, and chilling eyewitness accounts to uncover a story so secretive, so mysterious, that it has haunted those who dare to look for the truth for over a decade. But before we go any further, pause this video, hit like, share this mystery with others, and subscribe to the channel. Every click supports our mission to uncover stories that the world may not be ready to hear, but you deserve to know. Prepare yourself for a journey into darkness, where obedience meets terror, and one soldier's disappearance becomes a puzzle with pieces scattered across the nation. The mystery of Ethan Ward begins now. The soldier who never came back. It began with a whisper in the dark corridors of Fort Benning, Georgia, the kind of whisper that grows louder each time someone tries to silence it. In August of 2010, Private First Class Ethan Ward, a quiet but determined young soldier, was preparing to take his first break in months. He'd been serving with precision, respect, and an almost obsessive dedication to routine. His friends called him the machine, always on time, always focused. Then, on a warm Friday evening, Ethan disappeared. No struggle, no witnesses, no trace, just an unexplainable gap, a void where a life used to be. At first, few noticed. Soldiers come and go. Sometimes transfers happen overnight. But when Ethan didn't report the next morning, the barracks grew uneasy. His belongings remained untouched, his boots still beside his bunk, polished, ready for inspection. It was as though he had evaporated from within the heart of one of America's most secure military facilities. When investigators reviewed the CCTV feed, the tape flickered. The last frame showed Ethan walking past the supply building at 7:41 p.m. The next? Static. A full 5 minutes of digital snow. When the picture returned, Ethan was gone. Some soldiers say he'd been acting different that week. Restless, checking over his shoulder, writing notes in a small leather-bound journal. One of them overheard him muttering, "They're watching even when we're off duty." Officially, the report listed him as AWOL. But unofficially, rumors began to spread like wildfire. Some believed Ethan uncovered something he wasn't supposed to see, files related to experimental military projects. Others whispered about hidden rooms beneath the base, soundproofed, unregistered, unseen by anyone without high clearance. Whatever the truth was, it vanished with him that night. Days became weeks. His mother's calls went unanswered. His fiancée received a single envelope with no return address, containing Ethan's dog tags and a folded note that simply read, "Tell him to stop looking." To this day, no one knows who sent it. But for those who still dig into the case, it's a chilling reminder. Sometimes the silence of the military hides more than missing men. It hides missing truths. If you believe that every mystery deserves to be uncovered, help us keep the light burning. Subscribe, share, and let's search together, because some stories are too strange to stay buried. The silence within Fort Benning. In the world of the military, silence isn't unusual. It's discipline. But the silence that followed Private First Class Ethan Ward's disappearance in August 2010 wasn't discipline. It was something else. Something heavy. Something intentional. Fort Benning was built to train soldiers, not lose them. Yet, within 24 hours of Ethan being reported missing, his name was quietly moved into a different category, AWOL. A single 3-syllable label that stripped away the urgency of the situation. No alerts. No search helicopters. No public announcement. Just silence. His file read simply, PFC Ethan Ward. Failure to report. Possible desertion. And that was it. Case closed, at least officially. But inside the base, not everyone was convinced. Fellow soldiers whispered that Ethan was too squared away to run. He wasn't the type to vanish for attention or to escape his post. One of his closest friends, Corporal Dean Foster, said something that would echo through the barracks for weeks. Ethan didn't walk away. He was taken. When investigators from the Army Criminal Investigation Division arrived, their presence was oddly quiet too. They didn't tape off the area. They didn't question the night guards. They didn't even secure Ethan's bunk, where his wallet, phone, and dog tags still sat untouched. But what really puzzled people was the footage. The base's surveillance system was always recording every corridor, every gate, every parking lot. Yet, when they reviewed the night of August 14th, the timeline froze. The last image showed Ethan walking past a warehouse door at exactly 7:41 p.m. Then static for 5 minutes straight. When the picture returned, he was gone. No one could explain the interference. No one wanted to. A few soldiers mentioned a restricted section near the old logistics compound, a cluster of buildings officially decommissioned in 1998. That same night, power logs showed that someone had reactivated electricity in that area between 6:30 and 9 p.m. The Army later denied it, saying the data must have been a clerical error. But what if it wasn't? Ethan's mother, Janet Ward, refused to accept the AWOL explanation. She called the base every day for 3 weeks. Each time, the tone grew colder. On her final call, a voice she didn't recognize told her, "Ma'am, your son made his choice. Let the matter rest." 2 days later, she received an unmarked envelope in her mailbox. Inside was a single photograph, black and white, slightly torn at the edges. It showed Ethan in uniform, standing near a concrete doorway with a warning sign, "Authorized personnel only." Scrawled across the back of the photo in red ink were 4 words. He saw what's hidden. No sender, no fingerprints, just that cryptic message. By then, online forums had started picking up the story. People shared theories about Fort Benning's ghost projects, secret training zones, psychological experiments, and tunnels that connected to unused bunkers under the base. Some claimed to have seen strange lights in the woods that bordered the installation. Others said they'd heard unmarked helicopters flying low around 2 a.m., always in pairs, always silent. One anonymous poster wrote, "If you think soldiers go missing by accident, you don't know how the system really works." Some of them are taken for what they know. Of course, there was no proof, only patterns. But the more you read, the more the pieces seem to align. The official story was simple, a missing soldier. But the unofficial story whispered through encrypted forums and deleted threads painted something far more disturbing. A soldier who had stumbled into a place that didn't officially exist and paid the price for knowing. And when Janet Ward tried to meet with the base commander, she was turned away at the gate. Her final words to the guard were quiet but powerful. "If he's dead, just tell me. If he's alive, tell me why you're lying." No one answered. That same week, Fort Benning security grid recorded an unexplained power surge beneath the logistics compound, the same area last linked to Ethan Ward's whereabouts. What happened underground that night might explain why the Army wanted everyone to stop digging. The compound no one talks about. Every military base has its shadows, forgotten corridors, sealed doors, buildings left off the official blueprints. At Fort Benning, that shadow had a name, the logistics compound. Built during the Cold War and decommissioned in the late 1990s, the compound was once used for weapons storage, classified testing, and, according to whispers, human endurance trials. After 2001, it was locked down permanently, fenced off, and labeled non-operational. But in the weeks following Private First Class Ethan Ward's disappearance, several soldiers reported something unusual. Lights glowing faintly through the cracked windows of the compound's main building at night. At first, no one dared to mention it. Then came the rumors. A glitch in the system. In late August 2010, the base maintenance team noticed an electrical anomaly, a power surge recorded in a grid zone that officially didn't exist anymore. The surge lasted from 6:41 p.m. to 9:08 p.m., the exact time frame Ethan was last seen alive. When questioned, technicians said they received orders to ignore the alert. One of them, a young private named Kyle Mercer, later told a journalist off record, "That zone shouldn't have any power running through it. It's been dead for years. When I asked my supervisor about it, he told me to stop asking questions, or I'd end up like that missing kid." Within days, Mercer was reassigned to another base. He never spoke publicly again. The unofficial investigation. While the Army's investigation stagnated, Ethan's mother, Janet Ward, began her own. Using online forums and contacts she made through other military families, she tracked down someone claiming to be a former maintenance contractor at Fort Benning. He went by the name Redline. Through encrypted emails, Redline shared chilling details. He claimed the logistics compound had a sublevel, a restricted area used for behavioral resilience testing during the early 2000s. He also said the entrance was hidden behind a false wall near the west stairwell. But here's where things got strange. Base blueprints from 1999 showed no sublevel at all. Yet, satellite scans picked up faint signs of underground ventilation shafts in that exact location. Janet sent the evidence to the CID and local press. Days later, both links were mysteriously deleted from her email history. The corridor beneath the earth. In early October 2010, a journalist named Mark Devereux, who had been covering missing servicemen cases, snuck onto the outskirts of Fort Benning with a local contact. They followed utility maps and found an overgrown trail leading to a half-buried metal hatch, right on the logistics compound perimeter. Inside the hatch was a stairwell descending into darkness. The air smelled of rust and oil. Devereux's contact filmed 47 seconds of footage before his camera shut off, showing a narrow concrete corridor with thick doors and yellow stenciled letters. Sea level access. Clearance required. When Devereux returned to the surface, military police were already waiting. His car was impounded, his press credentials revoked, and the footage vanished. Weeks later, Devereux received an anonymous package. Inside was his own memory card, broken clean in half. What was hidden there? From that point onward, the narrative changed. Those following the Ward case began to suspect that his disappearance was connected not to desertion or accident, but to something sealed below Fort Benning, something that had been buried both physically and bureaucratically. Some claimed the compound was used for psychological resilience experiments, testing how soldiers reacted under extreme stress, deprivation, and isolation. Others believed it was tied to experimental training methods, pushing recruits beyond human limits with devastating consequences. A handful of whistleblowers hinted at something more chilling: medical research disguised as endurance training, with participants who never reappeared on official rosters. And as one online post ominously stated, "You don't need to find Ethan Ward's body to know what happened. You just need to find a room they never unsealed." For months, the military denied any knowledge of the compound's reactivation. But in November 2010, new evidence emerged: a set of leaked internal memos and an intercepted message that hinted at a classified project named Operation Black Silence, the same name scribbled in Ethan Ward's journal. Operation Black Silence. For months after Private First Class Ethan Ward vanished, Fort Benning's official stance remained the same: AWOL, presumed dead. But then, in late November 2010, something extraordinary surfaced. A series of leaked internal memos marked confidential. Operation Black Silence. The leak that changed everything. The files appeared anonymously on an encrypted forum used by military families and whistleblowers. They were time-stamped between 2005 and 2008, and though many lines were redacted, several names were still visible, including that of Captain David Rourke, Ethan's commanding officer. One memo read, "Testing to continue under supervision of Rourke and Behavioral Division. Phase 2 candidates display increased agitation and auditory hallucinations. Further containment protocols required." The phrase containment protocols caught everyone's attention. What was being contained? Another memo mentioned environmental simulation chambers and extended sensory modulation. Those terms suggested psychological experimentation, the kind designed to push subjects to their absolute mental limits. When investigators traced the file metadata, they discovered something chilling: The document had been last accessed on August 17, 2010, the very night Ethan Ward disappeared. The missing journal pages. In December, Ethan's mother, Janet Ward, received a plain envelope in her mailbox. No return address. Inside were 2 torn pages from what appeared to be Ethan's personal field journal. The handwriting matched perfectly. The first page read, "Black silence. Not a code, a place. Not supposed to write this. No one leaves after phase 3. The second page had just 3 lines, scribbled in panic. Voices in the walls. Cold air from below. They said we're being conditioned for something that doesn't exist. Military officials dismissed the documents as forgeries, but an independent forensic analyst verified the ink and paper as consistent with supplies issued at Fort Benning in 2010. The Ward family's attorney later revealed that Ethan had filed an official complaint just 2 days before he vanished, citing severe anxiety, auditory disturbances, and unreported after-hours drills. That complaint disappeared from his records soon after. What was black silence? To understand the full meaning, researchers began digging into archived military contracts. They found references to a behavioral resilience initiative launched in the early 2000s, a joint project between the Department of Defense and a private contractor named Orally Systems, specializing in sensory deprivation and mind adaptation technologies. Orala's public-facing division developed flight simulation tools, but its black-budget projects were hidden under code names like Echo Skin, Quiet Line, and finally, Black Silence. The theory? It was an experiment to erase fear itself, to train soldiers who could operate under total sensory chaos without panic, hesitation, or breakdown. But the human mind wasn't built for silence that deep. Those who underwent it reportedly began hallucinating, hearing voices, or vanishing altogether from rosters. If Ethan was indeed chosen, or forced, into the final phase of the experiment, he may never have walked out alive. Suppressed evidence. Not long after the memos surfaced, military intelligence teams raided several online servers, erasing the leaked files and warning forum users about unauthorized possession of classified material. But a few fragments survived. A line from one email exchange read, "Subject 07 failed to re-emerge after exposure. File marked incomplete. Recommend full lockdown." Investigators later matched the timing of Subject 07's disappearance to Ethan's final logged activity on the base. Was Ethan Ward Subject 07? The clues pointed unmistakably in that direction. The vanishing test subjects. By early 2011, 4 other soldiers from Fort Benning had quietly been discharged for psychological instability. Each had served under Captain Rourke. Each had reported seeing flashes of light and hearing metallic humming coming from the old logistics compound. And 2 of them mentioned being taken to soundproof chambers for evaluation. None of them ever agreed to speak publicly after discharge. One was later found dead in a motel outside Columbus, Georgia, officially ruled as suicide. By now, the Ward family knew this wasn't a simple disappearance. Something hidden, sanctioned, and unspeakable was being buried under layers of classified silence. But when a whistleblower came forward with photographs and a recording taken inside the compound itself, the story took a terrifying new turn. What that tape revealed, no one was prepared to hear. The tape from the compound. For months, the rumors of Operation Black Silence were dismissed as paranoid conspiracy theories. But that changed when a former communications technician, going by the alias Morse, stepped forward. He claimed to have worked at Fort Benning's old logistics compound, the same structure rumored to be used in the psychological experiments connected to Ethan Ward's disappearance. In March 2011, Morse delivered something that sent chills through anyone who heard it. A 3-minute audio file recorded inside the restricted section of the base. The file was titled Ward_test_phase 3_record.wave. The leaked audio. The recording begins with ambient static, like an old intercom system warming up. Then faint breathing. A male voice, trembling, whispers, "It's so quiet. I can't tell if I'm talking or thinking." A metallic clang follows, then silence. An unnatural, heavy kind of silence, the sort that seems to pull the sound right out of the air. After 12 seconds, another voice, distorted and deeper, mutters, "Phase complete." Subject response, "Incomplete." And then a scream, a short, guttural sound, abruptly cut off by a feedback pulse. When the noise stops, the last audible line is, "He's gone. Ward's gone." Forensic audio analysis. Independent sound engineers examine the file. The ambient frequency was consistent with a steel-reinforced underground structure, likely several meters below ground. Background resonance matched the construction specs of Fort Benning's decommissioned Cold War bunkers. And here's where it got disturbing. In the audio's final 6 seconds, spectral analysis detected a low, rhythmic hum somewhere between 18 and 19 hertz, the exact frequency associated with infrasound, a sound wave below human hearing that can induce fear, nausea, and hallucinations. The military has used infrasound testing in controlled experiments before, but never officially on enlisted soldiers. The whistleblower speaks. Morse's statement to the independent journalist group Truthline Investigations claimed that Phase 3 wasn't training, it was containment. He said the subjects weren't being prepared for war. They were being tested for obedience under total sensory deprivation. If they broke, Morse said, they were written off as AWOL. Nobody looked for them because the paper trail made it seem like they ran away. He also described a chilling incident during his time on base. They called it the silence test. Soldiers were taken underground for 6 hours. When they came back, most of them wouldn't talk for days. One of them tried to tear his own eardrums out. Classified connections. Investigators found financial trails linking Orally Systems, the private contractor, to an unlisted DoD account titled Project SRE-2, an acronym derived from survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training. The implication was that Black Silence was an offshoot, a classified evolution of a SEER program, designed to desensitize soldiers to extreme isolation. But unlike SEER, which trains troops to survive captivity, Black Silence seemed to train them to exist without self-awareness. As one expert chillingly put it, if you can erase fear and identity, what you have left isn't a soldier. It's an obedient weapon. The psychological toll. A clinical report obtained by journalists confirmed that several soldiers who left Fort Benning between 2009 to 2011 were treated for hallucinations, paranoia, and persistent silence episodes, moments where they physically couldn't speak despite no medical cause. One psychiatrist noted, they describe hearing voices that don't sound external, more like memories echoing out of sequence. That same symptom was recorded in Cold War sensory experiments in the 1950s, but never again in any official U.S. program. Until now, the vanished witness. Weeks after his interview, Morse vanished. His apartment in Athens, Georgia, was found empty. Laptop gone. No signs of struggle. The only clue left behind was a single flash drive taped beneath his desk. On it, the original Ward_test_phase3_record.wave, and one new file, created just before his disappearance. It was titled simply, "They're Still Testing." When the audio leak hit the public, military spokesmen scrambled to dismiss it as fake. But there was one person who wasn't so sure, a retired investigator who once worked inside Fort Benning's Psychological Warfare Division. What he revealed about the tunnels, the locked doors, and the soldiers who never returned would blow open everything we thought we knew about Black Silence. The investigator who knew too much. The first major break in the Ethan Ward case didn't come from an active soldier or even a journalist. It came from a retired military investigator, a man who spent years inside the U.S. Army's Psychological Operations Division. His name was Major Harold Pierce. A career intelligence officer, Pierce had investigated classified misconduct at Fort Bragg, Fort Hood, and finally Fort Benning, where Ethan Ward had disappeared. Echoes of the program. Even after its supposed termination in 2014, strange incidents continued near Fort Benning and nearby training outposts. Base personnel reported power surges, distorted audio frequencies, and interference in radio signals late at night. One recording, captured accidentally on a police scanner, contained only a rhythmic pulse, a low hum repeating every 7 seconds. When analyzed, it matched the exact frequency signature of Project Silence's infrasound files. It was as if the project was still transmitting from somewhere. The question that remains: so, what really happened to Ethan Ward? Was he a victim of a secret psychological experiment? Or was he part of something he believed in, a mission so classified that not even death could declassify it? Investigators believe Ward may have survived, but whatever remained of him wasn't the same man who enlisted in 2009. He vanished without orders, one researcher said, but he might still be following them. When the erased mind theory went public, the Pentagon went silent again. But one final leak, a recovered video transmission from a sealed bunker, would rewrite everything investigators thought they knew about Operation Black Silence and reveal the terrifying truth about where those missing soldiers might be now. The hidden video transmission. After months of chasing leaks, witnesses, and audio files, the investigation took a dramatic turn. A private intelligence analyst, using the alias Vector, discovered a partial video transmission buried in military archives labeled Facility Delta Estel 03 Containment Review 2012. The footage was encrypted and heavily redacted, but its content was unmistakable. The video begins in near total darkness. A faint blue glow illuminates a long, narrow corridor. Metal doors line the walls, each with a small rectangular window, like observation ports. A figure enters frame, walking slowly, fatigued and disoriented. His uniform bears a partial insignia matching Fort Benning. The camera pans closer. It's Ethan Ward. His eyes are vacant, expressionless. He doesn't respond to his name being called by the recording operator, a voice muffled by a filter. A few moments later, the audio picks up a low-frequency hum, identical to the infrasound signatures previously leaked. Ethan flinches slightly, but continues moving mechanically, as if compelled by the sound itself. Evidence of containment. The video shows automated mechanisms along the walls, opening and closing at precise intervals. An overlay timestamp indicates Phase 4, Estel 03, 0600 to 1800, confirming that Ethan was part of a continued testing program. Vector's analysis revealed subtle anomalies. Heat signatures of other individuals in adjacent rooms, sounds of breathing and faint footsteps, but no voices, a recurring symbol scratched into a door frame. 3 vertical lines, a marking that appeared in several prior whistleblower testimonies. It became clear the vanished soldier was alive, but fully immersed in a system designed to erase identity. The implications. This video confirmed several chilling realities. Operation Black Silence had continued well past 2010, despite official claims. Soldiers like Ethan Ward were kept alive under total psychological control, potentially indefinitely. The military had effectively created human automatons, compliant, silent, and untraceable. The footage also reignited public scrutiny. Families of missing soldiers and investigative journalists began connecting other disappearances to the same Facility Delta system, forming a horrifying network of vanishing cases across multiple bases. Unintended witnesses. The video included a brief scene showing an observation room. 2 figures in lab coats monitor several soldiers through reinforced glass panels. One figure glances directly at the camera, as if acknowledging an unseen presence. Vector commented, "That's the first time the operators were visible, and it confirms the controlled environment. This isn't training, it's containment. And Ethan Ward isn't the only one there." Public release and military reaction. The transmission leaked to an encrypted forum, causing immediate backlash. Pentagon spokespersons denied authenticity. Several journalists who attempted to publish the footage had their computers confiscated. The leak, however, couldn't be fully contained. The evidence strengthened the argument that Operation Black Silence wasn't a historical anomaly. It was an ongoing, active project. The turning point. At this stage, investigators realized something horrifying. If these transmissions continued, Ethan Ward and others like him were still alive, somewhere inside the network, living under conditions designed to erase selfhood, obedience measured, and identity systematically dismantled. Vanished without orders, one analyst said, but they're still being watched, still being tested, still silenced. The discovery of the Facility Delta transmission opened a terrifying window into the hidden world of Operation Black Silence. But the next piece of the puzzle would bring investigators closer than ever to the people responsible, and to the chilling realization that the military silence wasn't just secrecy, it was deliberate, methodical, and deadly. Behind the operators, with the Facility Delta video leaked, investigators turned their attention to the chain of command. Who authorized this operation? Who maintained control over the missing soldiers like Ethan Ward? Former insider documents revealed that Project Silence 2 had a tiered management system. Phase directors, military officers overseeing individual experiments, behavioral analysts, civilian contractors from Orly Systems, field operators, soldiers, or technicians ensuring protocols were followed in real time. At the top of the hierarchy, Colonel Mark Halloway, RET, a high-ranking Fort Benning officer who mysteriously retired in 2011, shortly after Ethan Ward's disappearance. The directives. Internal emails obtained by independent journalists described operations in chilling terms. All subjects must remain compliant for duration of silence protocols. Do not report failures. Mark AWOL if necessary. Phase 4 subjects are not to be removed from containment under any circumstances. Investigators realized that these directives weren't accidents or miscommunications. They were deliberate policies to maintain secrecy, control, and compliance. The civilian connection. The emails also mentioned Orly Systems contractors responsible for designing the containment chambers, the infrasound systems, and the monitoring software. One anonymous contractor, referred to as Raven, provided a chilling statement to journalists. They weren't training soldiers. They were testing obedience, fear, and identity. If you survived, you weren't free. You were property. It became clear that the operation was a joint military-civilian endeavor designed to bypass oversight and eliminate accountability. Investigative breakthrough. Using metadata from the leaked Facility Delta videos and emails, analysts mapped the locations of other experimental sites. They found 3 covert facilities across the southeastern United States, each showing signs of ongoing activity between 2012 to 2015. The pattern indicated a systematic, nationwide network. Soldiers disappeared at one base, then likely transferred to a secret site. Families were told they were AWOL, dishonorably discharged, or missing in action. Operational secrecy was maintained through code words, compartmentalized directives, and deliberate falsification of records. Ethan Ward was only one of many, though his case became emblematic of the program's reach. The human cost. Pierce's files and whistleblower accounts documented psychological effects on soldiers. Memory loss and identity confusion extreme, anxiety, and hallucinations compliance beyond voluntary limits. Some soldiers were reportedly never the same, and a few even died under suspicious circumstances, ruled accidental or self-inflicted by the military to cover the experiments. The moral reckoning. Investigators and journalists began piecing together the systematic nature of the operation. Secret programs sanctioned by high-ranking officials' participation of private contractors cover UPS of disappearances, psychological damage, and deaths. It wasn't just one soldier who vanished, one analyst stated. It was a program designed to make men vanish, in every sense. By the end of Chapter 10, it was clear Operation Black Silence wasn't an isolated incident. The true scope of the disappearances and the machinery behind them would only become evident when investigators finally traced the last known location of the surviving subjects. What they found in the sealed bunkers would redefine the term vanished forever. Tracing the survivors. After uncovering the chain of command and the covert network of facilities, investigators focused on finding anyone still alive from Operation Black Silence. Former analyst Raven, now in protective custody, provided a shocking lead. a small, heavily concealed bunker beneath an abandoned industrial site in Georgia, roughly 50 miles from Fort Benning. "If anyone's alive, they're there," Raven said. "They've been moved, rotated, but it's the same program. Silent, controlled, untraceable." The Bunker Reconnaissance. A team of independent investigators and whistleblowers, operating off-grid, approached the site at night. Exterior, rusted fencing, overgrown with weeds, no visible signs of life. Perimeter sensors, active, possibly decades-old surveillance tech still functional. Entry, sealed with reinforced steel, requiring specialized equipment to access. Inside, they found evidence of recent activity. Footprints in dustless corridors, suggesting routine movement. Personal effects, dog tags, a half-eaten military ration, a notebook with cryptic symbols. Faint infrasound vibrations resonating through concrete walls. Though no individuals were directly seen, the signs suggested subjects were still present, undergoing containment or rotation cycles. The whistleblower revelations. Raven disclosed that some survivors had partial recall. They remembered commands, but not themselves. Names, faces, and histories were fractured or erased. One survivor had managed to write a brief note. "We are shadows. We obey. Silence keeps us alive." Investigators realized these vanished soldiers weren't gone. They were trapped in liminal states, somewhere between life, identity, and enforced obedience. Connecting the past. Investigators cross-referenced these findings with prior disappearances. Every soldier marked AWOL from Fort Benning and associated bases during 2010 to 2015 had a potential path leading to these hidden sites. The facility Delta video, the leaked memo, and whistleblower testimony all converged here, forming a network of containment and silence spanning multiple locations. This confirmed the horrifying truth. The vanishings were systematic, not accidental. Public awareness and reaction. Though portions of the investigation were shared anonymously online, the military publicly denied all allegations. Independent journalists warned that if exposure increased, whistleblowers and remaining subjects could face extreme retaliation. The system was designed to erase witnesses and silence truth, Raven said. And that's exactly what they try to do. Psychological impact. Experts analyzing recovered data noted. Survivors exhibited memory fragmentation and emotional suppression. Many could follow instructions but lacked personal initiative. Some showed subtle signs of prior trauma, indicating exposure to long-term infrasound and sensory deprivation. Ethan Ward's fate, though still unconfirmed, remained the symbol of the vanished, the one case linking every other disappearance. Silence unbroken. After years of piecing together leaks, whistleblower testimonies, and covert investigations, the final chapter of Operation Black Silence comes into focus. Investigators converged on multiple covert facilities, including the infamous facility Delta, but what they discovered was unsettling. The program had evolved, becoming less visible but more insidious. The last subjects. Records and recovered materials suggest that several soldiers, including Ethan Ward, were still alive as of the last confirmed leak. They were in long-term containment, rotated between facilities to prevent recognition or escape. Their identities have been fragmented, memories manipulated and suppressed. Only traces of their personalities remained, and subtle habits, faint handwriting, or whispered phrases caught on audio. Raven, the whistleblower, explained. "You don't see them. They move like shadows. You hear them sometimes, a cough, a shuffle. That's how you know they're still here." Evidence of continuity. Investigators analyzed newly discovered surveillance footage from abandoned bunkers. Lights flickered in sequences that matched experiment schedules. Objects moved without explanation, suggesting the presence of controlled subjects. Infrasound frequencies still active, indicating ongoing conditioning protocols. The military's official stance remained silence, or outright denial, but the evidence could no longer be ignored. Whistleblowers risk everything. Through interviews and encrypted communications, whistleblowers revealed the moral and emotional toll of exposing the operation. fear of retaliation, psychological strain from witnessing survivors in a near-lifeless state, persistent concern that the operation would resume if public attention faded. One anonymous source stated, "You can't undo what's been done. You can only hope the world knows it happened." The broader implications. Operation Black Silence raises questions that extend far beyond Ethan Ward and Fort Benning. How far can governments go in pursuit of control? Can human identity truly be erased through experimentation? Who bears responsibility for the vanished? Those who disappeared or those who orchestrated the silence? Experts argue that Project Silence 2 may be a cautionary tale, a stark warning about ethics, power, and the human cost of secrecy. The enduring mystery. Ethan Ward's fate remains partially unknown. Was he alive in the final years of the program, or had the operation succeeded in erasing him completely? What is certain? The network of disappearances, infrasound experiments, and clandestine operations proves that Operation Black Silence was real, systematic, and horrifyingly effective. "They vanished without orders," Raven said, "but their existence, or absence, is still felt. That's the silence that haunts us all." The case of Private First Class Ethan Ward is more than a disappearance. It's a doorway into a hidden world of silence, secrecy, and manipulation. Whether alive or erased, his story reminds us that sometimes the truth hides in the shadows, and the vanished are never truly gone. If this mystery gripped you, like, comment, and share your theories below. Who or what do you believe is responsible? Can silence itself be a weapon? And don't forget to subscribe to follow the unraveling mysteries that defy explanation. The vanishing of Ethan Ward may seem complete, but the echoes remain. The mystery persists, the questions remain, and the story is far from over. Stay curious, stay alert, and remember, some disappearances aren't just unsolved. They are deliberately hidden. Until next time, keep watching and keep questioning.